1, 2, 3, and we're live. Welcome everybody to another episode of D's Get Degrees. I'm here today with two guests, not one, but two, Jack and Brock. Say hello.
Hey.
Hiya.
Glad to see we got it figured out. Wait, taking turns. No one's going to be talking over each other this episode. It's going to be great. All right. But today we're going to be talking about red pill ideas, and the red pill being a reference to the Matrix, how there's the blue and the red pill, and the red pill is like the truth in a sense. So we're going to talk about like truths that we've learned in college in regards to, classes, that kind of stuff. Kind of what the idea of D's Get Degrees is all about, but we're just going to go a little more in depth with that today. So anyone have anything they'd like to start talking about?
I mean, we can start with women.
Women. As we're recording this the day after Valentine's. Did you have a nice Valentine's Day, Brock?
I actually didn't do anything because I had a test, but that's fine. She still loves me.
Yeah, that's what she tells you. Probably not. But yeah. Jack, how was your Valentine's Day?
It was pretty good. Had class all day.
And no ass because this man's single as fuck.
Okay, well, I just need a Bible Belt female, alright?
Just one woman that loves me and the Lord. That's all I want. But yeah. So the idea, though, a lot of talk, there's like this talk of red pill philosophy in regards to men. It goes to this idea that women are not an equal, but that men should, what is it? It's like MG, men
should go their own way or
men
something like that. Something like that. Men going their own way, I think is the actual acronym.
And that idea is that most guys have this idea that they like need a woman that will like, if I had a girlfriend right now, if I had the perfect woman with me, my life would be so awesome. But it's reality that, hey, you're a guy, you should be able to, work on yourself, work on your career, work on your life without a girl, and then like a girl is just a compliment.
Right. I think the whole idea of the red pill, at its core, like its fundamental core, is the fact that men growing up today have been kind of influenced by rom-coms, fairy tales, etc., where women love the nice guy, the good guys win in the end. It's very idealized and it's very rom-com-y. And I think a lot of people are growing up, and I don't know, maybe this happened in the past, but just speaking present day, a lot of people grow up and realize that's not always true, that regardless you could be a good person, women have standards, and if you're objectively ugly, things are harder, stuff like that. And that's what the red pill is.
Oh, there's this black pill philosophy too. It's like women only go after the top 20% of men, and if you're ugly, that you are forever going to be a virgin.
That's like an incel type thing, and I don't fuck with that at all, because I see plenty of dudes who are completely normal and maybe not objectively the hottest guys. And we'll get into that, I guess, later, but I don't really buy that. But
yeah, what do you feel about that, Jack?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like in general, there's been kind of like a war on masculinity. And
do you see the Gillette commercial in the Super Bowl? It was sick, man. They were like, yo.
Yeah, no. Like, what was up with that? Like, why did Gillette, you sell razors. You don't need to be lecturing us on how to, I don't even know. That whole thing was so stupid. But I just feel like in general, there's this overarching theme among like media outlets and political discussion that it's like a bad thing to be masculine, and like I just kind of fundamentally disagree with it. And I don't know, I guess as I've grown up, like the more I've become like in touch with my masculinity, the better, I don't want to say like the better I've done with women, but the better my relationships have become, because
you're a man's man.
Yeah, but honestly though, women and men are completely different. Like, people like to talk about like equality, like men and women are the same, but I think down to like the fundamental like core of how we're constructed to how we interact with people on a day-to-day basis, there's differences biologically and like mentally between men and women. And that doesn't mean like men are like better than women or something like that. It's not some like that, because that's the way they'd like you to label it if you say that out loud. I guess like people in the media would be like, oh, that's so like messed up that you would say that, like you clearly are a woman hater, like you think men are better. It's like, no, I just think men are different than women.
Go talk to any of the liberal girls on campus and they'll be like, what, you think men are better? It's like, we're not better, we're different. You can't judge two different things, and there's no better or worse between two different things.
They're just different, and that comes down to literally just biology. I mean, men are, like we've talked about before, men way stronger than women. That's just a fundamental truth. Women tend to be more intellectually capable within the realm of linguistics, stuff like that, comprehension.
I've heard this thing that men are the only animal, regards in all of, whether it be mammals, men and women, that men are the only species that have the ability to not use their emotion when choosing something, but be logical. So they can go against their emotional response. Because the idea behind that is that animals, they are all like
driven by
emotions, and then females, obviously, they have every 28 days. You can like talk to a female, and she's going to be a little bit more.
Well, I think
in a way, you know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, there is a thing. I mean, PMS is a thing. I'm not sure that's. I mean, men are clearly driven by emotion all the time. I mean, I think. I don't think it's true that women are not capable of being logical, but I think maybe that because just the way the bodies are built, once again, that different hormones are reacting at different times and moving around a little bit, that during, like I said, the ovulation period or whatever, period, I guess. I don't know why I'm trying to speak scientifically, but the period,
we don't use correct
the
pronouns.
hormones are going crazy, and that results in, for some women, not even all women, but some women being a little bit more maybe emotionally unstable. I think that's just like a given fact because that was a result of the hormones going crazy and nuts.
Well, what is your opinion on that? Love. So they always say like love isn't. Do you think love is real? We talked about this before, but is there an actual love that is everlasting? If you love someone, do you think unconditional love? That's the word.
Right.
Unconditional love is real.
I think it's real. So I guess real quick, the red pill, from what I gather, from what I've read, will label a couple things that men too often put women on a pedestal. That women will tend to go to dudes who can provide, that men inherently have. I think they call it an SMV, which is like some type of value. It's like a
sexual
scale.
Market value.
Yeah, that's what it is. Sexual market value, and that's dependent on how much money you make, your looks,
what is it called? Your frame. It's all about your frame.
So they break it up like that, where women will give you shit tests like that, where they're trying to play mind games. So it's like a whole philosophy, and there's some good parts of it, I think, obviously, but there's also a lot of things that I think are kind of whack and out of touch, but I guess we'll get into that later. But what was your question again?
That unconditional love, their philosophy that unconditional like you can love someone, but there's no such thing as unconditional love. Unconditional love being that they love you regardless of who you are.
I think that's what love is, really. I mean, if you're thinking about like what love truly is and what most people thrive for, and it comes down to, I want Jack to read this fucking book, but he won't. But in this book, my favorite book, it's called Name of the Wind, and it's from the actual second book of the trilogy. He talks about how, I'm going to whiff on the quote, but it talks about how loving someone loving someone for their perfections is as easy as putting like a penny in your pocket. Like anyone can do it. The challenge in true love is when you love someone despite, not for. You don't love them for something, but despite something. Despite, they're bald. Despite the fact that they have a lazy eye. Despite the fact they're overweight. That you love them despite. And that's what true love is. And I think that's accomplishable. I mean, otherwise...
Well, I think a good example would just be like your family, because I'd say that like always deep down you will have a level of love for your family, even if your family slights you to like the worst degree. I feel like there's always going to be something like deep down in you that just like it's a connection. But
that's a connection, right, between biological, like you're family in a sense. So you kind of like you're together because you are part of the same thing.
I'm strictly
speaking like romantic unconditional love, and many people believe that yes, you can like love a girl truly, but you can fall out of love if they start to, because like as humans we change over time. So do you think that you can love someone forever?
I mean, I think you can. I just don't think you might, in the example you brought up, like people find out things that dissuade them from loving someone, but I think they didn't know they loved them. Like, I feel like if you know, like deep down, if you give your love to someone, like you can feel that and it'll be reciprocated. But I don't know.
I agree. I think that we've talked about this once again before, but I don't think, people change. There's times where I think maybe you're bringing up something like you're in a relationship with your partner and all of a sudden she gets fat.
Yeah.
Are you still going to love her? I think, you can still love her for sure. But obviously, if she's obese or if you're obese and she's like, nah, dude, like I can't fuck with you anymore. That's a normal part, because maybe one of the things that drove you to her or you to her or vice versa was the fact that you were committed to your fitness, et cetera, you were committed to good health. And if you kind of hop off that bandwagon, it's only normal to be like, okay, we have to fix this, remedy this, or else things might change.
But I have this idea about what love is, right? The idea that can you create love under perfect circumstances. So I feel like I have experienced love in my life, and the reason I feel that was, so in high school I started dating this girl, and so like she is the complete opposite of someone like completely quiet, classic, like there used to be this thing like quiet people are smart and intelligent and they have a lot going on, but then it's really most quiet people, they just kind of got nothing going on in a sense, like they're just kind of boring. But so that regardless of point though, so I ended up going on this date with this girl randomly after I called her one night after we were at
I was there for that.
at Taco Bell. So I called this girl, and so it kind of goes to this thing. It's like this idea of confidence, right? So I called this girl, asked her to come hang out, like almost as a joke. So I did not care either way. And then like it ended up going the way. She's like, well, it was like 12 o'clock at night. And she's like, well, I can't do it today. I was like, how about tomorrow then on Sunday? And she said, is it just going to be us or us and your friends? And I said, just us. And then I ended up going on a date with this girl. And I did not expect much. I thought it was going to be really awkward. I'd never talked to this girl for more maybe than like 2 seconds. Comes to find out we had like first and third grade together. She was just in my history class. And then we ended up going on this date, and it was just like incredible. It was weird. It was because there was no, how would I say?
There's nothing like leading up to it?
Yeah, not like, there was no preconceived notion of what it was going to be. It just happened, and it was so innocent. And it wasn't that I found her super attractive before, but then I got to know her, who she was. There was no, when you meet someone and it's like, there's a thing where you meet girls now when you first you talk to them because they have some sort of like you're talking to them because you have some sort of attraction to them. When you try and pick up, and that's why I don't think like Tinder and stuff work, because you're literally going off someone's physical appearance. That's all you know about them when you're swiping right, especially for males in a sense. But so we went on this date, we got to know each other, and then I ended up like falling in love with her, which then made her like attractive on a way that, like, I think she was the most attractive girl in the world.
Right, and I think that's a good point.
Yeah, so, but then I knew who she was, and then we broke up, and now I would say she's different in a way that it's just she is now someone, out of her shell in a sense, and I think like a girl changes a lot between their first relationship and after, just kind of like that innocence of who they were.
Yeah, growing period for sure.
But exactly, and then. So I think that was real love, but I now looking back on it, I used to think like, it's like I could only love certain people, and like this love, I could never love someone as much as I love that person. But it goes back to, yes, I love her, but did I love her because of the circumstance, or is it because of like, it was that specific person? Like if you replace her with a different girl and things go the same way.
Right. Well, I'll let Jack hop on this in a second, but I think that there's no idea, for me at least, I don't believe in a true soulmate. I think a lot of people could fill that role, but I think with the way I think about a lot of things, or especially relationships, is, I love a girl now, and she might not be the person I end up marrying in like I'm going to do quotation marks here, true love, but she was an integral part of me becoming who I am. Like my love is with this girl, let's say I'm dating now, is just as valid, or like with you, with her, it's just as valid, because yes, you loved her, you loved her for that time period, but that's just as important as a true love. And I don't think it detracts from the overarching idea of like love itself.
Well, I don't think it has to be contained to just one person. Like I think you can give love to many different people, and I don't necessarily think that's like the best way to approach like finding relationships, like being in polyamorous relationships or anything like that. Because I think, if you look at the statistics, people that have like less partners or get married are better off in the long run based on like some pretty common metrics. But I do think that you can give love to many different people. Like you could have been in love with your girlfriend, and then circumstances changed, and whatever, you guys separated, you moved apart from each other, and then were your long-term goals weren't oriented the same way they were when you first started dating, and that's fine. So you guys moved apart, but that doesn't mean that you didn't love her and you still have some love for her, like even now, even though you're not together. And that doesn't detract from potential future relationships either, I think.
Recognize and acknowledge that you love this girl for who she was. And I mean, I think love's such a complex thing that it'd be ridiculous to think that love doesn't constantly evolve and isn't a dynamic entity. I mean, it would be wild if love was a static thing where if you love this girl, you should love her for the rest of your life, or else that's not real love. Love is, to me, is just such a dynamic thing that, yeah, it's going to change. And that doesn't mean that love isn't a valid or as powerful thing as what is displayed in media and stuff. I think that there is real love and unconditional love. Like, if she did something, you unconditionally loved her at the time within the period of dating. Would you say you unconditionally loved her?
Yeah, well, that's the idea between any good relationship. I feel like there's that. But then it goes back to, like, when you break up with someone, you think back to, when you guys were together, it was good stuff. And then, like, the problem when people break up, they only think about the bad stuff. You got to think about the good things, too. But then why didn't it work?
Because I think exactly what Jack just said. In the end, your goals can just not be aligned. You can appreciate everything that person has done for you. I'm sure you learned as an individual a lot from her. Growing up, she contributed to your growth, to who you were in high school, senior year, to who you were. I think you guys broke up sophomore year, junior year.
Yeah,
she contributed to that growth, and you can appreciate that, and you can recognize that love was valid, and that was a great part of your life. But I don't think that detracts from the overall, importance of it.
Yeah, no. But also, though, like, I think you could make the argument that there's different levels of love. So maybe the level of love you guys had for each other wasn't enough to detract from what you wanted to do with your life, and therefore it made sense that you guys would separate and not be together anymore. Like, it could have been a different girl that you went on a date with that first time, and then you would have known right then and there that you're gonna, like, marry this girl, and you would give up, like, personal goals you have in order to spend more time with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, so say, for example, like, you're dating a girl and you get, like, a job across the country, and you're like, oh, like, what do? I still, like, really love this girl, but I need to focus on myself and my career. Does that mean you don't love them anymore because you decide to break up with them? I don't think so. I just think that maybe there's certain people that you would decide to not take the job because you have that much love for them, versus some people you're like, all right, I think it would be better off for me if I went forward with my own goals and aspirations and moved across the country, despite the fact that I'm gonna have to, like, separate from this person.
A big thing about red pill philosophy would be, in that instance, is you are the man in the situation, so therefore you should go and she should come with you. Well, you would never sacrifice for the girl, in a sense.
See, the problem with that is if you're not making sacrifices, then that's not love. It's not just a woman sacrificing for your needs, because that's ridiculous. A point of love is that you both independently grow, but at the same time, I mean, it's a whole story, even in the Bible and Greek mythology, that you're two halves becoming one. It's not one full one with a barnacle attached to it and leeching off it. It's your two halves becoming one. You both have to sacrifice, and that is what a true relationship is. And that's a relation that ends up working, is that they equally input. And that's not to say that I think it's getting conflated between the idea of being like giving up your personal goals, in the sense it's a kind of a subtle nuance where you have a lot of guys who they put a girl on a pedestal and they would do anything for them. They're giving up their aspirations to a point where it's just unhealthy. And that's different from sacrificing. And maybe Jack can clear it up because I'm kind of butchering the articulation of this, but there's a difference between putting a girl on a pedestal and giving up your goals, your aspirations, your everything about you just to satisfy a girl, and making sacrifices with the girl for the relationship.
Well, the idea that if you are they would say a beta male or like a nice guy, you are catering to your girl's every need. And the idea that is that girls really don't want you to cater to every need. They want, girls want to be treated as people, being that hey, we're equals. Like, we can argue, we can conflict. We like want to don't just do everything I say. And I believe that is true.
I agree too.
But I mean, there are definitely some girls out there that would want that.
Right.
And
well, I mean, if you're like looking at that philosophy, then you could just say that the guys that do that they're not like steadfast in what they want and their aspirations, and they don't have that motivation to go get things done for themselves. And I think that's part of the reason why girls become attracted to certain men, because they see that drive and like aspiration to better themselves. And maybe it's something they do in their career, maybe it's personal fitness, maybe it's whatever, becoming a more well-rounded intellectual individual. But that's the type of stuff that I think, I mean, I don't want to like put words in generalized females, but I think that's like pretty across the board. Most females would say that's attractive qualities in men.
And I mean, it's the same thing. Just think about what you want in a girl. Obviously, it's different because we talked about there are clear differences. But do you want a girl who's just like on her ass all the time, has no aspirations, just kind of like grody, going around sleeping with people and just like whatever? Or do you want a girl who's like knows what she wants to do, has her own passions, will follow those passions, and is like a good, rounded individual? Or what do you want? And it's kind of, in that respect, I think it's almost the same, where a girl's not looking for someone to give themselves up to all the time. No girl's like, oh, this guy just like does everything I want. Maybe some girls like that, but girls who are healthy in the sense will have a healthy relationship want a guy who can lead, who can take charge, who can provide, who are, like Jack said, who are masculine, and that comes with like the confidence of knowing what you want to do and following your aspirations and having that drive.
Well, also, I think going back to the point of like the guys that'll suck up to girls and do anything they want, I could see why that wouldn't be attractive, because when I'm thinking about personally girls that I've had relations with, I'm not really interested in those girls that'll like do anything for me, because it's like what is it, like the chase or like the hunt or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it's all about the hunt.
I mean, that sounds very like
but it's
derogatory. But I mean, I definitely am attracted to girls who don't show as much interest in me, because I'm just like, well, why doesn't this girl like think I'm good enough? Like, what's going on here? I'd be like, versus girls who would just like do anything for you. You're like, there's no, I don't want to call it sport, but there's no like fun in that almost.
It's like
it's like it's weird. I don't know.
It's the idea that in life, if you could get the cheat code and I can give you like the fun it's always been about the journey. The concept of life is always literally have been about the journey. The reason you enjoy something is because if tomorrow you wanted to be a business, you wanted to start a business, and your dad was like, here's all the money in the world to start your own business, and you start a business, I guarantee, regardless of how successful that business is, you'd be like,
I mean, it was less fulfilling.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, again, that's like, there are girls that they would be like, oh yeah, I'm attracted to you, and you'd be like, okay, this feels good, but it's not as rewarding always.
I think the difference, well, for me, is when a girl's like so gung ho about me, it almost feels like like I said earlier, where I think real love is when someone recognizes someone's flaws, and like, this person has the flaws, but it's despite these flaws. And I think when someone's like, yo, Brock, I fucking love you, everything about you, it's almost as if they're not even recognizing you have flaws, and it's at that point, I think, infatuation. I want a girl who can be like, yo, dude, you have flaws, like, you're an asshole, whatever. You're
call you on your shit. Is what you want.
Call me on my shit, and knows I have flaws, but
she's
despite that, she still loves me. And I think that's way more powerful than some girl just being like, Brock-kun, I love you.
Yeah, well, dude, I think to kind of go off that point, you talked about how like relationships, it should be you giving your whole self to someone and them doing the same in return. And I think there needs to be balance there. Mm-hmm. And I think in the situation we're talking about, where like a girl will do anything for you and just like it almost like puts you on a pedestal, it's like a weird dynamic, because you have, I guess like all the power in the relationship, but it's not like a true balanced relationship. Right. You know, it's like it's so tilted towards you that it doesn't feel right, versus like in a good relationship, I guess you'd say, there's definitely going to be more balance there.
So I dated this girl, And it was kind of that dynamic where she would kind of do whatever I wanted. It'd be like, come over and have sex. And then we'd come over and have sex. And I'd be like, okay, I have to do homework. You got to leave. And she'd be like, okay. And a quote from her, love you to death if you listen to this, but she said, she was talking to her friend one time, and I said, what was your friend talking about? And she went, I don't really pay attention. Sometimes when people are talking, I kind of just sit there and wait for my turn to talk.
Nice.
You're like, all right. Awesome. So that was kind of a red flag right there. I was like, well, maybe I should leave this relationship. Very attractive, very, again, like, great. That's like, it's kind of like always what you'd want in a girlfriend. It's like, oh, you can have sex anytime you want. She'll do whatever you want. And then you get that, and it's just not fulfilling at all. There's no point in being in a relationship. You kind of want someone that is a real human. I feel like when someone puts you on a pedestal, it's almost like they're not even treating it. It's not like they're a real human being in a sense. Like, I want you to be real, and when you're real, you have flaws because I have flaws. That kind of thing. I
think also to kind of touch upon why I think the black pill is bullshit. You talked about earlier about how you have this initial attraction for someone when you were talking about your ex-girlfriend, and that she was like a good-looking person before, but like when you started dating her is really when you're like, holy shit, this is the most beautiful girl in the world. And I think right there, and that's in of itself kind of says fuck you to the black pill, because yeah, you can be ugly, but it shows that true attraction happened when you got to know her. And I'm not saying that and a lot of these people who subscribe to the black pill or who are labeled incels are just shitty fucking people. It's so annoying. Like, you see some like online and stuff. Some of these kids are just pigs and just like losers, and it's like, no fucking wonder, dude, you're not getting ass. Like, do you see the way you speak and how you have no self-confidence, how you treat everyone around you? Oh, dude, you're not getting ass because you're faces up. Like, it's just pathetic, honestly, and I think they need to do some introspection. I don't know, that's just my opinion, though.
Well, yeah, it's just, well, there are a bunch of people that like the idea that they don't have to, they're ugly, so they're never going to get chicks, even if they got super hot, bro, because their face is not perfectly
and it's
squared.
Just like, dude, like, are you serious? There's so much more to life than just your looks, and stop, and even so, just worry about yourself, make yourself as best as you could. Everyone's given a deck of cards or a hand of cards in the beginning of life. Some people have fucking sick hands. Ryan Gosling's got sick hands. He's a handsome motherfucker. Wheels. But like, this is real life.
But you look at, so take her, like, watch an old Migos music video, right? They still had the drip, but they literally looked like Stop and Shop, like rappers. Like, they have like just one big gold chain, their hair's like,
right, it's just
like they still have style, but as you get the glow up and you get the money, then you can start, paying designers to get the best clothes. People are like doing your hair. You can get a lot of famous people, especially like soccer players. Like, look at old pictures of Ronaldo. Like, the structure of him being an attractive male was there, but then he got money, he can fix his teeth, he can do all this stuff. You get the glow up, you get the tan, you get the best food, and then you start to dress better, you just start to look better. And then, so the idea that you are just like born attractive, you can get more attractive. It's
right. Objectively, yes, some people are born ugly, some people are like born hot, but like, it's way more, there's just way more to it than that. I don't know, Jack, any input?
I don't know. On this topic, honestly, it's like not really.
Feel that,
but yeah. What we were talking about earlier, though, was some other things on the red pill that we want to talk about. Oh, the idea too. I do think that being an asshole is actually a very proven strategy. Though.
I disagree.
It's not like
the way you phrase it though is strategy. Like, strategy in what? The game.
The game and playing the game. Like,
the asshole thing just doesn't. Everyone's like, oh, that guy's an asshole. But if you look at a lot of the stuff these people do, it's not that they're assholes. It's just that they
know what they want.
They know what they want. They're convicted in their views. They're true to themselves. And sometimes, as a result, the way
people don't like
react, the way they interact with people may come across as assholes, but it's like it's like, I'm trying to get a good point where, kind of like what Jack said, where he's in a relationship with a girl and then he gets a job offer and then he leaves for the job. Some people are like, dude, that guy's such an asshole, like, what the fuck? But he's just doing him. He's convicted in his goals. Like, that doesn't make someone an asshole.
I always had this idea that you can, so say you're dating someone and we don't like her just because she takes you away from us or whatever, and then or then you guys break up and then we're like, yeah, dude, that chick sucked, bro.
Right.
She was the worst. And then it's the same with your, like, as a girl, she can go to her friends like, oh my god, he's the worst. And then girls will just, girls are naturally will just agree, and they'll be like, yes, of course he was the worst. They're not going to use the logic and be like, oh my god, but like, look at it from his perspective. We always look from it from our perspective, what's going on, and the time, like, why he was an asshole. But in reality, if you look at it from like an objective view and a logical point, you'd be like, okay, this is understand why he did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not. No one gets ass that goes around telling girls like, "Hey, you fat piece of shit! Like, come suck my dick, you fucking cunt! Like, eat my ass!" Like, no one gets ass like that.
Maybe
that's like,
someone does though. Shout out to that guy.
Maybe, but that's just not. You have to.
I think it's more of just being funny, because I think girls like funny guys.
I agree with that.
Sometimes I think being funny or making jokes can be misconstrued as being an asshole, because, like, I don't know, say you're like talking to a girl at the bar, they don't want some guy that's gonna like suck up to them. So say you're like making jokes, like you're like teasing them a little bit, but it's not in the sense that you're like actually trying to be hurtful.
Right.
It's in the sense that
that's
you're like
nuance.
Building a connection, and it's like a funny way of interacting.
It's teasing
with
is way different than being like an actual asshole, and I think that's a
great story of me a couple days ago at the bar. So I'm at the bar and I'm getting a picture, and this girl is sitting there and she spills her drink, and I go, nice. It's like, go home, you're drunk. Like, just like jokingly.
Right. That's funny.
And she goes, oh my god. I'm wearing a hat. She takes off my head and goes, I'm keeping this. You need to be taught. Like, I would have done that if I was sober. And I said, yeah, I know. It was a joke. She said, you're an asshole. I was like,
that's just a girl who's insecure, honestly.
I was like, what do you I don't understand.
And like, obviously some people are going to misconstrue that, like Jack said, but there's just back to the thing, there's a difference between being a genuine asshole, and that's a wide range of qualities that make an asshole, just not genuinely caring, no respect, but you can like flirt with someone, kind of give them shit. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, my boys give me shit all the time about certain
shit talk,
things,
bro. It's all about the shit talk.
But it's not like I'm like, dude, these guys are such assholes to me. It's all in good fun. It's not like I go home like...
In high school, you did.
Jack just like...
Well, dude, that's like part of the bonding process. Because I was listening to a podcast with this guy. I think his name's Eric Weinstein. He's like a mathematician.
What was his last name?
Weinstein.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Harvey Weinstein.
It's such a shame because his production company has the best movies. He did all of Tarantino's movies, like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Damn, rest in peace. But yeah.
Also, fuck him.
Yeah, that's not cool. But wait, what was I saying?
You're saying listen to podcasts.
Yeah, with Eric Weinstein. So this guy's like super smart, and he was saying how it's kind of bad for schools to not allow young males to. I mean, I guess like bullying, it can be going over the line clearly, but part of like forming a group of friends and bonding is that like playful like fighting among males. And it's kind of I don't want to say like in today's society, but I mean, I guess just going back to this overarching theme of like a war on masculinity, like people don't want young males to like fight with each other because they think it's like mean and bullying. But I can say my best friends now, all of us like tease each other, and
it was god awful in high school. It was so sick.
Dude, we used to be like brutal to each other, and like I remember like back in like middle school, me and Tim would literally go and like fight each other. Like we would box.
Dude, we had boxing on the beach. Like I whipped Dan's ass at one time. Hey Dan, if you're listening, that I murked you, buddy.
Yeah. Also, Tim, I gave Tim the absolute hands. Can we just like point that out here?
That's like,
but that's part of the bonding process, and this is like true across different species of animals. Like wolves, when they're very young, like part of the ritual of them becoming like part of the pack is them fighting with each other. Like they actually almost fight each other to the death, but then they lay off, and then they go on to work together, and they become closer, part of a pack.
That's the idea of why fraternity hazing
like
in general. Yeah, it just brings you together because.
Because also for something like that, it's like you've all gone through the same experience, so you have that connection, and it's like a rite of passage type of thing. So like I could say that for like this like finance club or whatever I'm involved with. When you're first like going through the process, like it's super hard because they give you tons of work. Like there's high expectations for what you're going to be doing, but everyone that is going through it together, and the people who are older members of the club that have been through that and done that understand what the process is like, and it's like you form more of a bond because you're both understanding that this is the way it's done, and once you kind of like hit that rite of passage, you have like a stronger connection.
And I'm going to bring a little bit of the psychology and like even a little bit of comparative mythology into this, because I mean I fucking love that. So rite of passages are just inherently just a part of human nature, and they're seen across almost all religions, all mythologies. A lot of, I'll draw an example. So in African tribes, I think in Nigeria, what they'll do is when they're like 12 years old or 13 years old, they will be taken from their mom in a very ritualistic experience, and they will be beat by their dads. And I mean, maybe that sounds a little bit barbaric in itself, but the point of the rite of passage is that your younger self has died and you're reborn into a more mature adult. It's the same thing with the bar mitzvahs, and the female version, I don't know what they're called, but the bar mitzvahs and all these rituals and, you know, passage that you go through, the point is that you're reborn a new human, a new person. And I think it's the same thing with like hazing. You're going through this passage and you're reborn into this group of people, and you look to your right, you're like, this homie went through the same thing with me, and like, we're closer.
It's a mental breakdown to break down the person that you were before, because you come in, usually when you come in before hazing, in regard to like if you're in the military and fraternity, you come in thinking you're the shit. So the idea is, hey, you're not the shit. You're nothing. They break you down and then they build you back up. Now you're a man. Now
Right.
You're part of something greater than yourself, because we broke the person you were before to bring you back up to make something be
Metaphorically,
better.
it's literally a rebirth.
Yeah. And that's the case with pretty much any.
Right.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, once again, it's kind of like, I'm going to be a nerd real quick, but it's like the hero's journey of where everyone goes through these processes in life where you cross that threshold into the unknown being like this, you know, hazing scene, this fraternity. You're hazed, which is like the ritual. You die, you're reborn. And I know it sounds like a little extreme given something like, oh, hazing or bullying, but the point of this whole like hero's journey, this mythology, is that it's why mythology is important. Like, I'm geeking out right now, but is because it's reflective of how life actually is.
Well, the idea that if you are pampered your whole life, you
Right.
are never able to experience things that are harsh. Like, you can't experience harsh realities when you're pampered because you've never had to go through hardship. So that's why as you get older, I feel like you like hardship, because then you know it's a growing experience.
Right.
It's always the idea that if you will always have regrets if you don't do something, but you'll never regret failure because at least you tried. So
Right.
you know it didn't work, but if you never tried, then how are you going to know?
Right. I mean, what do you have to lose? If you fail, you fail. And you're the same position you were if you didn't try. And that's why I think, also, going back to what Jack said, the Gillette thing was kind of bullshit, because in one of the things, they showed two kids, like, wrestling on the ground. And Dad's like, you can't do that. Like, that is so fucked up. Like, what, dude?
That's boys being boys.
The amount of times I wrestled with my brother, like, or my friends, was just natural. Like, even last year, we have that video of me punching Jack and Jack punching me, Jack punching Pat, Tony. Like, it was just like, for some reason, we just fuck around with, like, it's just what we do. It's just a natural thing. And to try to say that's wrong is ridiculous.
I hate that's part of the like feminist movement crap where they're saying they'll say it's just boys being boys. No, boys are going to be held accountable. Like,
accountable for what? Just growing. Like, obviously, like most men, 90% of men, 99% of men are fucking, you know, like a Brock Turner dude. Fuck that guy. He raped some girl or whatever. You see some dude raping a girl, no one's like, hell yeah, that dude's a hero. Everyone's like, no, that dude is scum. So I don't know where this idea where like dudes are like complacent in this whole sexual harassment thing is. The difference is that, you know, some things that women consider sexual harassment, and I think this is where the actual controversy arises, men will be like, I don't really see what's good with that, or that maybe didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, also, I think you can get into kind of muddy waters, because going back to the whole like teasing women thing, there is like a line where if you're not on a certain level with a girl and you do something like, say for example, like slapping a girl's ass,
Right.
and then their response to that is, oh my god, why'd you do that? Okay, that was wrong, you shouldn't have done that, you're not on that level. But with a girl that you're comfortable with, it's like almost like part of that like teasing
I agree with that.
thing. And I feel like it can get misconstrued sometimes that like, oh my god, he just like slapped her ass. But in some ways, like that can not be.
Sexual harassment.
It's wrongly characterized, I feel like.
I agree with that.
How would you like it if a girl slapped your ass, though?
I'd be like,
Hell yeah. It was like, well, you can't have gender equal if you look at each gender as the same, because then it's not okay for a guy to slap a girl's ass, but it's okay for a girl to slap a guy's ass. Like, no, that's bullshit. No, men and women are different. Get over it.
Right, like honestly, I can understand why a girl would get pissed if some random dude slapped her ass, and like I'd be like, okay, that dude's like kind of scummy. But if a girl slapped my ass, I'd be like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm straight. And I think that's where those differences arises. And I don't think like any girl slapping a dude's ass is sexual harassment anyway. But honestly, on the other end, I do think it'd be, depending on, like you said, the situation, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You don't understand what you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, it comes down to like gender, like different gender. There's different criteria, different standards for each gender. And I think that's why when we have a system that's trying to create equality among things that aren't equal, in the sense that they aren't the same, like there's different standards for each people, but you can't group them into the same thing under a same
what is it? It's like the equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome, and a lot of people that are pushing for these movements want equality of outcome. So say for example, like you look at schooling and women in the workforce, there's way less women who work in engineering, but is that a factor of, okay, it's a male-dominated profession and there's these obstacles that are preventing women from becoming engineers? Or is that a result of women just don't want to be engineers as much as men?
Same reason women are doing kindergarten teachers is exactly what you just said.
It's because women and men have different interests. So the idea that we are stopping women from getting into that field is ludicrous. And if that's the worst part about it, it's with this idea about diversity. I understand the diversity for some things, like don't discriminate against people.
Right.
But the idea that you need to hire, like, well, 100 men apply for this job, overqualified men, and then an underqualified woman applies for it, but we need to hit some quota, so she has to get the
then you're
job.
Getting like unmarried. That's how accidents happen.
That's how bad.
That's how fucking something like the Challenger happens. Which, I mean, that doesn't really relate to the men or woman controversy. But when you have someone who's unqualified doing a job, you have catastrophes and disasters happen.
I want the best person available for the job doing the job.
And if it's a woman, black dude, Asian dude, I don't give a fuck.
No company would ever not hire someone that's a good employee. Companies want the best employees. It's just fact.
And I think we've gotten to the point where the equality of opportunity is pretty close to as good as it's going to get. Like, if you're a woman and you want to go into a certain profession, like, there's not really anything that's preventing you from doing that. Yeah, there might be some bias somewhere along the lines, and obviously those are going to be the hardest issues to tackle, but to some degree, the chance of you doing that is pretty, like, I'd say we're pretty close to as equal as we're going to get. Like, if you look at, like, well, I mean, Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, how if you look at societies that are the most equal in whatever Scandinavian countries, like the differences between women and men in certain professions is exacerbated because they give them the absolute most freedom and equality in choosing what they want to do, and they just naturally divide into different professions. So it's even more so than in the United States, where we have things like quotas or whatever for like hiring and whatnot.
That's why they're more skewed, because they have to have certain people in these fields.
Heard that.
But the idea too that most people don't know what the idea that there isn't going to be some sort of bias if you're not normally supposed to be in the field. That's the same like if the rappers, like they're white rappers, logic thinks that he's not as respected enough because he's not like black. So there's a bias in any field that's like dominated by one person. So yes, like a woman, if she wants to do something that's normally dominated by men, she'll get some bias. But if she's talented, she will still be able to do it.
We've talked about this, how like I'm gonna use my mom example. Like there's times where my mom will say something as a leader because she holds a lot of management positions. You both know my mom; she's a very strong-willed person, and like people will look at her, guys will look at her, like fuck you, like I'm not listening to you. But a guy will say the same thing, and like yes, there's biases, and like men typically sometimes have problems listening to a woman as authoritative figure, but I don't think it's as prevalent or is as exaggerated as people like to pretend it is. And yeah, we should work to remedy that. But like Jack said, it is almost the opportunity, equal opportunity is like a thing. Like we're getting as close as we are going to get.
I think too, people tend to, like, I don't know if it's just society now. I think that's what happens when you have like with the idea of the internet now, you have so many ideas on the internet. And most of the time, if someone has a point, there's probably someone pretty logical that's arguing that point. So you can find, so say you look something up, you're curious about something, there'll be someone that's like pretty logical about it to give you a good argument to why that should be the case. So it's like, it makes you sometimes question your own thinking. So when someone says, people like forget how we actually think in an actual scenario, they just go based on like what other people are saying. It's the idea, there's all this outrage. It's about things.
Outrage culture is a wicked.
So like people just get outraged, but then you can meet one of these people and be in a scenario where there's supposedly so much outrage and there's no outrage, but they're telling me there's so much outrage. So then I'm like,
I think it's because the minority tends to speak up a little bit more, and it's exactly what you said. Where I mean, before the internet, before Twitter, before even globalization on like a more social scale, people would have these ideas. Some, I guess, if you want to label it radical idea, they're not having a lot of outlets to express that because most people don't think that way. But now that you have the internet, you can find a group of people, you can find a niche of people who support that idea. And all of a sudden you have a voice, you have a group. And I think the internet kind of exacerbates that. And which is why on Twitter you have all these different subcultures that can exist, Tumblr, stuff like that can exist because you found your niche. And these people tend to be the most outspoken. The majority of people are just, I don't want to say normal, but or
they don't care in a sense. They don't feel like just yelling out their opinions. Where the people that are so about something, regardless of if it's right or wrong, they're going to talk about it because they believe it.
Because they believe it, and that's fine.
But it creates a false narrative.
There is definitely like a false narrative, and that's just kind of the byproduct of, I think, the information age. And we've talked about this before, where it's so hard to figure out what the fuck is the truth or not the truth, and it is a whirlwind of beliefs. And I think it's hard. I mean, I'll give people the credit where credit's due. It is hard. It's confusing. Life's confusing. Life's hard. You don't know what's right or wrong. So it's understandable that some people act the way they do and some people don't act the way they do because life's complicated. And I don't want to detract from that. But
I feel like we have the idea too that some people just ask really dumb questions. And that's what I feel like I've learned in my life is people sometimes just start to question things that just.
What do you mean?
Yeah. So but that point being, so today in philosophy in my discussion class, we were talking about just if there was a God or if there wasn't God, how that would change people. And I said, I don't think it would change if there is or isn't a God. It really wouldn't change the way we act day to day. It would just kind of affect if there's an afterlife if there is a God, well, maybe you're not as fearful of death per se because, you get to go somewhere after. If there is no God and you just don't exist and this is the only life that you have, okay, maybe you're going to take a little bit less risk because if you want to cherish this one moment in time. But this one kid in my class, he said that, no, if the reason that society is the way it is because we believe there's a God, so that way, if there wasn't a God, everyone would just do whatever it is to benefit them, have no morals, and just steal all the time, do all this stuff, and just really not give a heck about anyone. And that is just stupid.
I don't agree with that. It's stupid because I mean I think it's not necessarily a good point, but it's a point that you can entertain because. But you
can but like on that idea, right? So it's a point you can entertain. And that's kind of a bad example of what I said in regards to my point being that I don't think some questions, but the idea that there are people out there that are, for something stupid like the national anthem should be changed to 1,000 miles by.
Right.
Yeah. So you can find a crowd of people that are like out there being like, yes, yes, yes. But that's it's just a dumb idea. It's just something that shouldn't happen. And with the idea now that there's all these groups that there are just so many stupid ideas, and everyone has an outlet for their stupid ideas. There are right and wrong ideas, and I think the problem with today's society, we're about being like, it's good to be open-minded and question things, but I think we've gone to a point now where there is no right answer, which I feel like is a problem because there are right answers.
Well, I think part of the problem is that people don't understand history and don't read about history, because if you think about it,
If you don't know history, you're doomed to
have
repeat it.
humans been around? Like, for ages. Like, people think that their ideas are groundbreaking, but it's likely that someone else in the world has had the same idea before, because just the multitude of people there are, and people are always thinking about these things, like, what is life, like, is there a god, whatever. People have been like thinking about and philosophizing about these things for hundreds of thousands of years. So you can't like be so close-minded and think that you're right, you're the center of the universe, like your idea is more like better than everyone else's, because you can just read history and probably find someone that agrees with you and probably find someone that disagrees with you. And I think that people are not susceptible to their ideas being challenged by someone who has read the history. Like, say, for example, if you want to live in a socialist society, like, it's been tried before. People have not had good outcomes.
Dude, it wasn't a real socialist society, bro.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like you can't pick out the best parts.
Communism hasn't been done correctly to know if it would actually work or not.
Yeah, but I mean, every time it's been tried, it's ended up
I
horribly.
mean, look at Venezuela right now.
Can we,
It's 'cause it was
really,
done wrong.
Can we really say that, oh, it's going to be different this time because every single time it's been tried, it's ended up horribly and people have been fucking fighting for their lives on the street? I don't think it's a good idea. I think that it's stupid. I think there's enough historical backing to say we shouldn't go to that extreme.
But
and
it's
I don't
not
think it's going to be
fair.
different this time.
It's not fair.
Because people are inherently gonna repeat the same poor decisions that they have for hundreds of years. It's just natural psychology.
Psychology says that humans are selfish, so you can never have a society where someone it's given equal, because people have pride and ego, so they think they are better than people. It's just human nature, and we try to act like ideas are objective in nature. A lot of things on paper work, but what works in an actual
When you have all the variables
Both.
of human, I mean, like humans cannot be, I don't know if this is even a real term, but variabilized in the sense where you cannot pick every variable that describes a person and use that in a math equation.
Use that as an example where, they have like, there's a horrific like school shooting or something, and then they like talk to the kid's neighbors or something, and they're like, I've known that kid my whole life. I could never see him being that kind of person. So the idea that you have this, someone can just snap someday. Like,
Right.
no, it's people aren't just cookie cutter. This is a person. There are but that's using psychology. Psychology gives us the able to generalize things.
Right,
so you can
sociology
make
kind of deals with that, like statistics generalization, but a lot of psychologists, like me specific, the person I really like specifically, Carl Jung, in his Undiscovered Self, he talks a lot about how there are generalizations, there are statistics that back certain ideas, but in the end, the human is an individual, and if you're interested in this, it's Undiscovered Self, and it talks about actually what we're talking about, communism, how communism detracts from that uniqueness, that idea that the human is an individual. I mean, it's been a while since I read it, so I can't go more on it, but it's an interesting idea.
Well, yeah, I personally completely think that socialism and communism is terrible, and in the way that they describe it, it sounds so utopian, but you could also take the complete opposite view and say that it is a dystopia because people aren't individuals. Their creativity is stifled. There's no incentives for them to better themselves or come up with new ideas, because why would they? There's no incentive system for that, which is why I wouldn't go all out and say I'm a capitalist, because I don't really subscribe to ideologies like that, but I'd say the capitalist system is the best system for
at the moment
that we've ever had in history. For one, look at the rate of poverty across the world, and that's obviously
actually it's rapidly dropping, by the way.
It's rapidly decreasing. From 2008 to 2018, in that 10-year span, worldwide poverty was cut in half. That is because of capitalist and democratic societies like it works and it's been doing good things. Obviously, you can cherry pick the bad side and be like, okay, these big corporations are evil and they're out to get you. But in the whole, it's been, I think, a good thing for mankind.
And maybe there could be a better system, but at the moment, there isn't. So why try to implement something that's already proven not to work?
I just think that the worst problem with labels in general is it makes, once you're labeled something, you therefore have to fit whatever is all encompassing in that label. You should want to be labeled as an individual. Like, you don't want to say, if you are like, it's like, I'm a Republican. Okay, well, that means people will then cherry pick. Well, you guys believe this. What about that? Well, like, I'm not fully in that. But no, but you said you're a Republican.
Right, no, that's a wicked annoying.
And it's just that idea too, that once you're labeled something, it's how we had that conversation. It's like when people come over to you, it's like trans people. They want to, like, I'm trans. I am gay, like a gay person will come to you. I'm gay. Like the first thing.
That's their defining quality, but like, it's like you're more than that, dude. You're human. You have different values. Like, tell me more about yourself so I can actually, because I really don't give a shit if you're.
And people who are lost, I would say, want to label, like, it's just the idea of getting behind something.
Right, because
so you want a label gives you, it goes how people kind of, are followers by nature, and you just, if you have a label and you have a set certain things that you can believe and you can get behind, you can be like, okay, this is now what I believe. I like this. This is the label. This is all the stuff they do. Okay, I'm part of this now.
Yeah, and a lot of people use the labeling system, or like identity politics, say, to discredit people, because if someone calls you a racist and then people start to associate you as a racist, even if it's not true, you're just immediately discredited. And it doesn't get to the core of the argument. Like, say you could go on and argue that you don't think having open borders is a good idea for the country, and someone just calls you a racist, then all these people, they immediately associate you with all these bad things, even if it's not true, because the person that you're debating the open borders point with is not getting to the core of your point that you're trying to make. They're not looking at the historical standards for why you're arguing one way, and they just label you a racist, and they win. That's right. Like, the argument's over. They're not open to a true debate on the subject.
It destroys all discourse, and it's a classic whatever it is, ad hominem or whatever the fallacy is. It totally destroys any discourse you try to have with people, and it's abruptive to any progression.
Yeah, and that's not to say, that's not to say that being in a group or having like a group that you identify with is a bad thing. I just think it's more important to be an individual within a group, because that's how groups work the best. Like, you can't have just the same opinion coming from every single person in the group, and that's generally where a lot of these people arguing for things like third wave feminism, they have this like identity, and they have all these set things that they have to believe in, or like, say, like the two-party system. Like, if you are labeled a Democrat, that means you can't, like, you don't want to lower taxes because you're a Democrat. We don't like support that. We think the government should raise taxes and provide all these assurances for people, but you don't have to fit every single thing that's part of that group.
You should want to be more of the good example of that. Be part of a band, right? So you can be the Beatles, but you have a Ringo, you have your drummer, you have your guitarist, you need a Paul, you need a John.
Right.
But everyone brings something to the table, but you're part of something, right? Everyone has their own identity within the group.
It's like World of Warcraft, when you're like, you have your healers, you have your fucking tank, you have your DPS. Like, any video game, that's like, you have a
you have a class.
But you're individual within it. You're the healer. You bring something to the table, but you're a group. You're the boys.
Yeah, the boys. It's like, my friends. They're my friends, but we're all
individuals. We got Coach. We got fucking Jack. He's the actor. We got Jack, the finance dude. We got Brock, the handsome motherfucker.
We got Timmy Basil.
We got Timmy Basil, the weirdo.
The drunkard.
Not fucking with him, but each one of us brings something unique to the table, and this is why we're all friends, because we each bring something to the table. We're not just fucking clones of each other who just spout off the same thing. Otherwise, same thing with this podcast. We wouldn't be having a good podcast, because anything you'd say would be like, yep,
totally agree with it.
Yeah, totally. I have nothing to say to that. Exactly what you said. That's fucking lame.
But then we can agree on things, but we can have different aspects of why, like, that point. But I heard an interview with Floyd Mayweather recently, and he talked about how when Trump wasn't president or whatever, like, you never heard he was like, everyone loved Trump, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one was out there being Trump's crazy racist. Trump was friends with everyone. Like, Trump was Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden he is a racist now, and everyone that was for him hates him. It's clearly when you label someone something, then we act like the past of everything they've done before that would dictate that they are racist.
Yeah, and I think the whole Trump situation really shows, it kind of exposed the political system for being so identitarian, and it showed the hypocrisy of politicians, because a lot of the people that are saying some of the stuff Trump is doing is like super racist. Like, let's have like a border at like a wall or whatever on the southern border. Like, a lot of people that are saying this is like a horrible idea. We're claiming that we should have a border when it was in favor for, like, just say the Democrats, for example, because clearly all of them are opposed to it now.
The damn Dems.
The Dems. But yeah, like half these people, like, there's video proof of them being like, oh, we should build a border wall because that was one of their prerogatives at the time, and they just flip-flop so often. And I think he's like a breath of fresh air, because he's not a politician. He says it like it is. His base voted for him because they wanted a wall, and he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna do what the people voted me in for. I'm not gonna change up just because I'm in office now, and I've done my duty. I got elected. Like, I don't have to support, like, do the things I said I was going to. And he follows through, and he also exposes the hypocrisy of the way that politicians speak and their actions.
Did you hear what he said today, where he said, when I first started in politics, I didn't really know much politics. Now I do politics. That there, like, it says it right there. We knew what he was. Trump never was one of the people that said, I'm a politician, and he just said, I think I could run the country. I think it's like a big joke. And if you look at the statistics of how the country is, it's not like we're on fire. People have created this false narrative that the country.
Honestly, I think whoever was elected, it wasn't going to change anything. Honestly, no, I think it's all just
it's a sham. But it's not to say that Donald Trump is the most well-run person to run the country, but the idea that there is some perfect person. Like, I remember, so I used to work for Kelly Ayotte. She was a Republican up in New Hampshire running for Senate. And we'd go door to door, and this is when Trump was saying all this stuff about, like, grab her by the pussy. And I remember he used to knock on people's doors, because in New Hampshire it's a swing state, so you go out and you campaign for people. So, and, like, people in New Hampshire love it. Swing states love it when, because their votes matter. So they like being told, hey, your vote matters, and they want, like, butter them up. But we go door to door, and there'd be people that come on. They're like, I'd open the door and say, hey, I am Jack with Kelly Ayotte, and they go, grab her by the pussy. That's all I think about that. And you'd be like, okay. It's like, have you ever said something stupid? It's like, if we record everything all of us say and, like, listen to it back, it was like, we're all people at the end of the day. So if you're a politician, like, wait till, like, 10 years from now when everyone runs
is under scrutiny, especially with all of this,
like, all of our stuff, all the Snapchat, like, all the
what I said fucking when I was
Jack Haley
17,
running for president, Snapchat video of him sending nude to girl. Now it's like,
small penis. Yeah. Do we want a president with a small penis? Find out at 5.
Yeah, exactly. So
boom, roasted.
I don't know. I mean, that's it's politics, and I understand. All that stuff gets thrown out again. The idea is just to make people look bad. It's just like a game to get people to agree with certain points, and you can make people look bad to make you look better. But
yeah, but I mean, it's part of the reason why people like him, because they see themselves in him, and they're like, okay, maybe a lot of his male base was like, oh yeah, like, that was probably not the best thing to say, like, grab her by the pussy, but then they realize that, like, they know people have said similar things. That doesn't make them a bad person, and it's like, it's just part of, like, being a normal guy, I guess, and that's kind of what they see in him.
I remember listening to some girl once talk about how Trump was a fucking pig, something like that, and, like, 10 minutes, this was at a bar, and, like, 30 minutes later she was talking to her friend how she, like, sucked, like, 2 dicks, like, within a week, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I know maybe they're not on the same level, but, like, what?
No,
it just seems
Donald Trump's a player. That girl's a whore. Everybody knows that. Dude.
It was just so weird to see that, like, she was roasting for being a pig, and then there she is, like, blatantly in the bar just talking about how, yeah, I just, like, sucked 2 cocks, or, like, that Instagram post by, like, whatever the college accounts are. It was like that girl holding up the poster she made, like, let's get a new record of how many dicks we can suck in 2019. It's just like, you're gonna be roasting. You're the same people who are roasting grab her by the pussy, but then you are, like, trying to brag about how many dicks you sucked. Like, do you not see like the the dissonance right there? Like, what? Dude?
I never got growing up, they always say we think we know everything, and then I know we like to say we don't think we know everything, but part of you likes to think that your points are correct because when you have some bias, that like the smart person will say, I don't know anything, therefore that's all that I do know. But would you when you're young, you just have such strong opinions about everything. Right. Everything. That's as growing up. That's what you.
Growing up, you
just like your opinions. My opinions become more logical and less strong based about I don't know, but I feel like our parents. I'm sure their culture wasn't so they didn't just get outraged about everything. Why do we get so outraged about everything? Like, where did this idea of outrage culture come from?
Because you get rewarded for being outraged. It's
virtual signaling.
It's virtue signaling, and it's like a point system. Like you get credit in your group if you call someone out. Like, say for example, you are in a debate with someone who doesn't have the same ideas on like politics as you or whatever, and you got them. Like they say something a little risque, and you call them a racist. You did that. You got them there. You called them
Everyone's
a racist,
clapping.
and everyone in your group is supporting that. Like there's 5 points for Team Gryffindor. Like you got them. You called them a racist. They get rewarded for doing
it's
that.
Like on Twitter,
we shouldn't reward that. It's the same thing with like. If you call someone out on like a tweet or something, you get a bunch of favorites. You call someone a racist, like a bunch of people will favorite and retweet your tweets. Like you're getting credit, like you're getting rewarded for doing that. Yeah, it's a like a reward based system for calling someone out, even though it's
retarded.
It's kind of dumb.
Well, that's the social media's created the idea where under-infoed people on topics can have an opinion about the topics.
Which is annoying. And I mean, I guess that's like with everything that's always been like that, but it's just more.
But now it's out in your face, and now everyone has a voice, which is
good in some sense because we want everyone to have a voice, but at the same time.
But what has it created? It just created a bunch of, again, it's the people that maybe should have a voice probably don't care. Like the idea too, it's just like how the minority is the one that speaks the loudest, and it's always been that case though.
Yeah, and you also, a lot of these people aren't willing to just sit down and hear the other side. Like that's the problem with it. If you have these ideas and you're espousing your ideas, you have to be willing to sit down and listen to what the other side's saying, because you might actually end up agreeing with them.
That'd be a cool podcast, just getting someone who he knows pretty because we do have similar ideas, but like getting someone who's like
completely opposite,
and trying to like just talk to.
The problem is
there's like a YouTube series on that where they get people who are like, say for like gun control, that are like gun advocates, like have guns in their house, versus people who like absolutely hate the idea of having guns, and they sit them down in a room and they ask them questions, and then they just let them talk it out. And sometimes the people on one side or the other come to agree with the people that they think they're fundamentally disagreeing with, because the environment they're in facilitates them actually listening to the opposite side.
Have you seen that show where he goes on a college campus and he says something, he's like, there's 2 genders, prove me wrong, and then people come over, and so it's him, he sits down like on college campuses, and people come up to him and he has conversations.
Yeah.
And then obviously he goes to like, he did one at like TCU, and he did like rape culture's myth, and like of course like a girl she's like, I've been raped, how are you gonna say that to my face, blah 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 blah. And he's like, he played like the dumb guys. He's like, he acted like he didn't know anything. He's like, do you know this, do you know that, do you know this, do you know that? And it's people just get so, I mean,
that example is a little understandable because rape is abhorrent, and it's like a very strong.
But like there are 2 genders, like there are 2 genders that proved me that, and then people came over and then they couldn't explain why, and then he'll use factual stuff, and then it's a classic like mechanism when you're wrong about something you don't know, you then cut to a different thing, being like
straw man, or
you're straw man,
yeah. I mean, it's so obvious in like videos like that. The people that are arguing against him don't, like, they're pulling out anecdotal evidence. Like, say for example, the guy's arguing that rape culture on college campuses is a myth because rapes have gone down statistically, whatever. It's a very low percentage of females that actually go through that. Like, it's obviously a horrible thing, but then this girl comes up and was like, I can't believe that, like, I was raped.
Right.
And he's like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's fine, but like
bad.
That doesn't change the fact that
like your anecdotal
culture is not a thing in the way that it's described in the media and whatnot. Like, your individual experience, obviously it's horrible. Like, whoever raped you should go to jail, but that doesn't change the overarching argument that the culture that he's describing as being non-factual or not real, she doesn't really bring anything to the argument to dissuade him from his
Anecdotal
original
evidence
viewpoint.
isn't
Using outliers is the worst thing you can ever do. It's just this. I thought this example. It's like, okay, so we're making a law that we got to make pencils this sharp, and then some kid uses a sharp pencil and he pokes himself in the eye. So should we outlaw pencils forever? Because what if kids are going to poke themselves in the eye with pencils?
Right.
Well, no. One idiot poked himself in the eye with a pencil. Does that mean every person who with pencils is going to stab himself in the eye? No. So you can't take the extreme scenario and act like, well, if this happens, well, guess what? They'll work around it. Okay.
Exceptions happen.
There are exceptions to every rule, but that doesn't mean that rule is
representative of the overall, I guess, generalization, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's been a pretty good episode. Want to have any closing things I want to talk about or say?
Is there any other red pills that you learned? I mean, we talked about women, we talked about just general thing. I mean, I guess like we talk about in every episode, just like the biggest red pill for me was just like taking responsibility for myself and grinding and
Pretty well.
Yeah, and everyone, again, hope you had a sick Valentine's Day. Hope you got super laid or super, I don't know, loved.
Love, baby.
Love is real. Spread it. Talk it.
All you need is love.
And yeah, keep popping them red pills, baby. Go down that rabbit hole. And have a great rest of your week. And remember, D's get degrees and A's are for freaking assholes. But unless you're being cool, because assholes is just a concept in your mind. All right. Bye.